Hello guys, we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto got married with Yugao and have a child part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. He felt numbness, as if his whole being had shattered. Not the attacks on his life, the hate, hell not even two Chidori's through the chest could make him feel like this. No. This was much, much worse. He's changed enemies' hearts in battle, he's made friends of enemies, but he didn't even know if he could fix his own heart at the moment, himself. It was ironic. The one who always tried to comfort everyone, now needed comfort, but no one was there. Not a single friend had visited him in the hospital. The girl he's always loved. The one he's consistently put ahead of himself, her values over his, had just shattered his heart, his world. Over a traitor. Flashback. No wonder your parents left you. Who would want to have an annoying child like you? I don't want to see you anymore. Sakura yelled out, making Naruto flinch. Sakura, I tried to breathe. Naruto was cut off by a hard slap across his face. This shocked him. Sakura had never slapped him. Sure, she would punch him across a clearing, but a slap? Nope. Never. Don't you dare say anything. You didn't try to bring back Sasuke-kun, you were just jealous about how strong he was and you're weak, you'll always be weak compared to him. Sakura shouted while walking out of the room and slamming the door shut. I tried. Naruto whispers more to himself while looking down at his bandaged arms. Fighting down a stream of tears. Flashback end. With Naruto. As he walked through the village not paying attention to his destination or surroundings, the young blonde bumped into someone. I'm sorry for bumping into you. Naruto immediately said, knowing the person would make a scene about this and try to get him arrested or banished for assaulting them. He's been in that situation too many times to count. It's alright kid, I should have been watching where I was going. A nice, soft and tender voice replied. One he didn't expect. Normally he'd be getting his ears shouted off of his head. Naruto looked up and saw the person extending a hand out to help him up. He grasped it. It felt warm and feminine. Unlike a man's rough hands, hers were soft. Thanks I think. Naruto half asked, half questioned. Naruto looked up at the person helping him up and was shocked by her beauty. She was a young woman with long lavender hair, brown eyes, and a tattoo on her arm. She looked like a powerful kunoichi who demanded respect. Her sword was seen strapped to her back along with armor on her arms, legs and chest. Sorry, Kunoichi-san. Naruto blurted out while bowing down, hoping she'd forgive him. He couldn't help but feel stupid for not paying attention to his surroundings, and now he bumped into this kunoichi who screamed, respect me, or die. Naruto-san, I said it was fine. And don't bow to me, it makes me feel like a stuck-up noble. She giggled at the young blonde in front of her. She knew who this boy was and she didn't hate him or despise him. In fact, she greatly respected him for holding back the Kyuubi. How do you know my name? I've never met you before, and if I did I would know someone with purple hair since it's an exotic color. Naruto said with a hint of caution in his voice. It wasn't that he was scared, it's just he didn't trust anyone. He tried trusting someone when he was younger and he regretted that mistake. Well, who doesn't know the prankster king from hell? Also, you're quite popular around some of us shinobi for stopping the Ikibi Jinchuriki from destroying half the village. If it wasn't for you, more than half the village would have been destroyed. She said, giving him a warm, gentle smile with a voice full of honesty. Oh yeah, those pranks were funny. Naruto chuckled out while rubbing the back of his head and giving the kunoichi in front of him a fake smile. He finally realized what she said about Gaara. Wait, how do you know about that fight? It's not public knowledge and only the people in that fight know what happened. Naruto questioned while being back on guard. Let's just say that I have the proper clearance, Naruto-san, besides you probably don't remember me without my mask anyways. She said while smiling at him again. Secretly she was hurting, she didn't want him to see that, so she decided to put up a fake mask. What she didn't realize was that he was doing the same thing. Naruto looked at her closely, trying to figure out who she was. The hair looked familiar for some reason, but he couldn't put his mind on it. He tried to envision her with a mask, and that's when it clicked. Neko. From the look on your face, you seem to remember me. Since I can't have you calling me by that name, you can call me Yugao Azuki. She replied with a smile on her face. She looked him over and noticed a few things were different from his usual self. For one, he wasn't wearing that god-awful orange jumpsuit that screamed, "Here I am, come kill me." She noticed he was wearing a black shirt with black Anbu-style pants and black steel-toed combat boots. His hitai wrapped around his neck, but the one thing that stood out the most was a green chunin vest. "Ah, hello Yugao-san. It's an honor to meet you face to face now." Naruto chuckled while giving her his famed foxy smile that would make any girl blush if they didn't hate him. He knew he felt weird in the new clothes that Tsunade had gotten him, and when she told him that Jiraiya had burned all of his jumpsuits, he had shed a single tear, but he was happy that she told him that she had bought him new clothes. "So how does it feel to be a newly minted chunin, Naruto-san?" She asked him, knowing that he deserved his promotion. He had basically saved the village from a rampaging Biju, and if that didn't get him promoted, then she wouldn't know what would. Sensei, you would have been proud of him. Yugao thought to herself with a smile on her face. "It's weird, and the vest feels weird. It's why I'm keeping it open. Every time I zip it up, it feels too stiff for me to move around, and it makes me feel uncomfortable," Naruto said while smiling at the Anbu in front of him. He kept playing with the zipper uncomfortably while trying to avoid direct eye contact. "So what are you up to today, Naruto-san? You seem to be distracted, and that's not usually you." She questioned him, trying to figure out what was wrong with the young blonde in front of her. She knew he wore a mask to hide the loneliness and hurt from everyone. On more than one occasion she heard the young blonde cry himself to sleep when he was young, and it pained her to see that. "Oh, I was going to buy some groceries, and was trying to make a list and figure out where I was going to go. Everyone seems to overcharge me 3 times the price even if the food is expired. It's kinda frustrating." He lies, hoping she'd buy his lie. Well, we can't have that now, can we, Naruto-san? How about this? I'll make you a deal. I take you grocery shopping and make sure that you get everything 50% off, but you have to take up Kenjutsu," she told him while looking at his shocked face. Someone wanted to help him. He couldn't believe it. He was shocked. Speechless. Hell, she said that she'd get everything 50% off, and all he had to do was take up Kenjutsu. This deal was too good to pass up. No idiot would pass this deal up. "You have a deal, Yugao-san, but may I ask, how will you get my grocery list half off?" he asked curiously while following her to the grocery store. "That's a trade secret, Naruto-san." She smiled while taking him to her favorite grocery store. The store itself was meant for ninjas. It had food that provided the right amount of nutrients, fats, sugars, and calories. She didn't have to tell him that her friend owned the store. She'd get him to eat something else besides ramen, and he'd learn Kenjutsu, plus he'd have a store to go to that wouldn't judge him. "That's not fair, you know. And are you sure they'll let me in?" "I mean, because of the overgrown carpet," Naruto asked while looking down at his stomach. He was hoping that he wouldn't be kicked out just because of his tenant. "I promise you, Naruto-san, that you won't be kicked out. I give you my word as a kunoichi of Konohagakure no Sato that you won't be kicked out of this store," Yugao replied with a confident voice, making him smile. "Here we are," Yugao said. It had taken them about 15 minutes to arrive at the store, and the one thing that was common was only shinobi and kunoichi were either entering the store or leaving the store. "The chakra builder," Naruto said out loud while looking at the store. He had seen this store before but didn't know what it was, so he never bothered to go in. "Alright, now let's get you some groceries, my young blonde companion. We need to get you big and strong," she teased out, making Naruto pout in embarrassment for being treated like a child. The two walked into the grocery store, and Yugao handed Naruto a basket and followed behind the purple-haired kunoichi, while she grabbed him some healthier food options like vegetables, meat, fruits, grains, dairy products, and she even made him get a couple of different cookbooks saying that learning how to cook your own meals will help you save money in the long run. Naruto looked down at the 3 baskets full of food and cookbooks. He didn't know how much this was going to set him back, but he was happy that someone was willing to help him out this much. To others it wouldn't mean anything, but to Naruto, who grew up alone, it meant the world. It showed that a select few actually cared about him and wanted him to succeed in life. Alright, I think you have enough to last you a month until you start taking missions again, Yugao said while holding another 2 baskets in her arms as she ushered them to the checkout line. Oh Yugao-san, how've you been? I haven't seen you in a while, an old man asked while giving Yugao a grandfatherly smile. Hello Matsu-san, I've been around, right now I'm helping Blondie over here, Yugao said with a smile on her face while pointing at Naruto, making him blush in embarrassment. So Matsu-san, what's the damage? She asked, knowing the old man would give Naruto the discount. Well, for the young man who saved my shop, how does 50% off of everything sound? He asked, making Naruto's eyes widen in shock. He didn't know what to say. This was too much for him. Even though Yugao said she'd get his groceries off for 50% off, he was still shocked. No, I can't accept that. I don't want to hurt your business, and besides, that's too much of a discount. I'm sorry Yugao-san and Matsu-san, but I can't accept this. I'd feel bad if I did, Naruto responded, not knowing what to do in a situation like this. It's not a problem, kid, besides you did save my life during that invasion, so I owe you a lot more than that, Matsu said with a smile on his face, making the young blonde blush in embarrassment. Thanks I guess, and you don't mind me coming back here even though I hold you know who? A hopeful Naruto asked. This was one of those few instances that someone was actually being nice to him and showing him compassion and respect. I'd love if you come back for any of your grocery needs, Naruto-san. Matsu smiles at him warmly. Besides, having you come in here will help you not only in getting the proper diet that you need, but you'll have people not judging who you are as a person, he finished. You have a deal, Matsu-san, Naruto said with a genuine smile, making Yugao smile warmly at him. With Naruto and Yugao, after shopping for groceries, the two had headed to Naruto's apartment to drop them off. Naruto's somber mood had picked up. He was happy that someone was willing to help him like Yugao did. And she's pretty too, thought Naruto, way prettier than Sakura ch. No, I could care less about her now, he inwardly hissed at the thought of her. Yugao is way stronger and prettier. He quickly shook himself out of his thoughts. It wouldn't do him good to think like that. He probably didn't even stand a chance with someone like Yugao. She was the best of the best when it came to kunoichis. Sure, there was Kurenai and that crazy snake lady, but Yugao was an Anbu, an experienced one at that too. So since you kept your promise, I'll keep mine, Yugao-san. I'll take up Kenjutsu like you suggested, Naruto said while he was putting away his food and his clones were cleaning his apartment. Naruto was happy that he'd be able to go back to the chakra builder. He could finally buy food at the actual prices without it having to be expired or overpriced. I'll be taking you to Higurashi Weapons Shop. They have high-quality shinobi clothings, since the owner is an ex-shinobi and his daughter wants to become a weapons mistress, Yugao said while watching the creative way Naruto used his shadow clones. How come I never thought about doing this? She mentally face-palmed. Alright Naruto-san, you can have your clones clean up your apartment while you and I go looking for a katana for you, and remember this, you don't choose the katana chooses you, Yugao said while heading outside with Naruto following behind her. Hi Yugao-sensei, I promise to take your words to heart, but what if one doesn't choose me? Could I be able to make my own katana from the bottom up, like the handle, the metal and material? Naruto asked, making Yugao look at him with surprise in her eyes. Now you're talking like a true swordsman, not some wannabe who just swings one around so they can feel powerful. A swordsman is always calm and collected no matter the situation. Yugao said, making sure he understood what it meant to wield a sword. So what's it like to be in Anbu? Naruto asked Yugao while looking at her, not breaking eye contact. He was curious about what it took to be in Anbu and he wanted to know if he'd be able to make it. Higurashi Weapon Shop. Remember what I told you, Anbu is considered the elite of the elite. I'm not going to discourage you to join Anbu. I will let you know this Anbu is always looking for new people to join in the ranks, and we're here now. Let's go and find you a katana and maybe some new supplies. Yugao said while smiling at her young companion. Hi Yugao-san. Naruto replied, whole smiling at her as he opened the door for her. Ladies first. Naruto said politely, making Yugao smile at him and ruffle his hair. Well, aren't you just the gentleman, Naruto-san? Whoever you end up dating will be a very lucky girl. She smiled while walking inside, making him blush in embarrassment at the thought of him dating. I doubt it, Yugao-san. No one wants to date the demon. I'll probably end up alone, which I don't mind. Besides, no one will ever truly love me. Naruto thought to himself with a small sigh, knowing that he would end up alone. Pushing those thoughts to the side, he walked inside after her. The store was medium-sized, but it worked. Clothes, weapons, scrolls could be seen everywhere. The store was nicely decorated. Katanas, bostaffs, kodachiyas, and other weapons adorned the walls, while clothing was separated in two different sections for kunoichis and shinobis. Scrolls and books adorned multiple bookshelves. For some reason it didn't feel like a shop, it felt homey for some reason. Hello, welcome to Higurashi Weapons Shop. How can I assist you? Came a sweet but professional voice. The girl had two buns on top of her head, making it look like panda ears. She wore a pink Chinese-style shirt and blue Anbu pants with blue shinobi sandals. Hello Tenten, I'm here with a friend and he's interested in kenjutsu. So we're here today to help him find a katana or kodachi. Yugao said with a friendly smile on her face while examining the blonde walking around. Of course Yugao-san, you're one of prized customers, so where is your friend and we'll help him find the right sword. Tenten beamed with a smile on her face while walking around the counter towards the purple-haired woman. Naruto, please come here. Yugao called out, making the brunette girl blink in surprise. She in 100 years would have never thought the blonde was into kenjutsu. She imagined him just swinging a sword around with no skill or talent. Thinking that's what the blonde was going to do annoyed her very much. She knew that he was reckless and impatient. He probably didn't even know anything about kenjutsu, and it irked her. As a weapons mistress, she took pride in knowing how to use every weapon she used in her arsenal. Coming Yugao-san. A voice called out as the young blonde came into view. Tenten has to suppress her blush when she saw the blonde in front of him. Never in a million years would she ever think that Naruto looked hot. He was extremely attractive in his new outfit, and those whisker marks have him a feral and exotic look. He'd definitely be beating the girls off with a stick when he got older. Gone was that god-ugly orange jumpsuit and was replaced with a form-fitting black shirt that seemed to cling to his chest like a second skin, showing off his athletic build, muscles in all the right places. He wasn't overly muscular, but he was extremely toned and lean. Black-style Anbu pants with his left knee bandaged and a kunai and shuriken holster strapped to his right leg. His Anbu pants were tucked into his steel-toed combat boots. Fingerless gloves adorned his hands with metal playing on the back, but she could also see some studs poking out around the fist for added damage. But what stood out the most was an unzipped Shunin vest that he wore. His Hitai-8 hung loosely around his neck, and a beautiful green gem necklace could partially be seen under his Hitai-8. His bright sunny blonde hair was hung loosely around his face. From where he was standing, the sun was perfectly hitting his eyes, making them shine bright. It was like swimming in an ocean of brightly polished sapphires. The way they gleamed and sparkled would melt any girl's heart. Oh hey, your name is Tenten, right? Naruto asked while tilting his head slightly to the left in a confused manner. Now Tenten and Yugao prided themselves in being strong kunoichi, but the way Naruto looked right now made them want to glomp the poor blonde and yell out, "Kawaii! Why ye yes en nar Naruto K-kun." Tenten squeaked out, her face bright red, putting Hinata to shame in terms of blushing. Did I just call him Naruto-kun? I mean, yeah, he looks amazing now, and those whiskers, Okami, I wanna pet them. Tenten thought to herself. Are you okay, Tenten? Your face is red. I think you may be sick, you should go sit down. Naruto said while placing a hand on her forehead, oblivious to Tenten's thoughts. His cerulean blue eyes were full of worry and concern, making Tenten blush even more than before. Yugao could only chuckle at this scene and couldn't help but feel bad for the young girl. Even Yugao had to admit that the young blonde was extremely attractive, and when he got older he'd definitely be sought out. But why was she feeling this emotion? It wasn't powerful, but it was there, she could feel it. This feeling wasn't anger or sadness, no, she didn't like the way Tenten had looked over Naruto when she first saw him. She knew how others treated Naruto and knew he barely had any friends. People would always blow him off. It also didn't help that he wore that, kill me, orange jumpsuit. But now that he was wearing an outfit that made him look like an actual shinobi, he's garnering more attention from the opposite. But why was she feeling these emotions while looking at Tenten stutter and blush around him? Is this jealousy? No, I'm being silly, why would I feel jealous about this? Yugao thought to herself while shaking her head. Alright, if you two lovebirds are done flirting, we should go back to our initial goal, and that's to find Naruto-kun a sword. Yugao said unknowingly, using the kun. Why did I say lovebirds for? I need to stop. He's 5 years younger than me and I can't ever forget Hayate-kun. Yugao mentally berated herself. With Yugao, she was a bit disappointed that none of the swords felt right in Naruto's hands. She told them that they'd keep looking for one that fit him perfectly. She knew that Naruto felt disappointed for letting her down, but she told him not to worry about it and that they'd find one together. Yugao had been walking around and saw her old captain reading his smut like usual. Some things never changed, she guessed. Hello Kakashi Taicho, how are you today? Yugao asked while walking up to her old captain. She was under his command in Anbu before he decided to hang up his mask and take on a genin team. She knew of his past and why he did certain things the way he did. Hello Yugao, how've you been? Kakashi asked while pulling his book down to look at the purple-haired woman. He wondered what she wanted since she wouldn't really talk to him unless she found it necessary or important. I bumped into one of your students and he's interested in joining Anbu. I have to say that took me by surprise. I wouldn't mind if he joined Anbu. Maybe I'll ask Hokage-sama to place him under my command. Maybe I can help bring out some of his potential, especially in Kenjutsu. Yugao said, giving off a subtle hint, making Kakashi chuckle. I agree, if he joins Anbu he'll gain more experience, plus it'll help him mature a bit more, but I think after his last mission it already helped him mature in more ways than one. Kakashi was sad his sensei's son almost died at the hands of his traitorous student who almost killed him with a chidori, a jutsu he taught Sasuke himself before the Chunin exams. I support your decision, Yugao, but if Naruto decides not to join, please don't force him. He seems to trust you and you don't want to lose his trust. Kakashi said while giving her his patented eye smile. Of course Tachio, I won't ever break his trust. Yugao said with a determined look on her face. With Tenten, Ka-chan, it's not funny, I mean this is Naruto. You know, loud-mouthed, ramen eating, Hokage spewing, kinda cute, gorgeous smile. Tenten stopped and looked at her mom, who had a smug look on her face. Oh, please keep going, this is getting very good. I mean, I wanna hear more of this Naruto. Who has you all flustered? Not even your teammate Neji never had you like this. Kira said with a smug look on her face, making her daughter groan out in annoyance. I'm going to bed, Tenten shouted, making her mother laugh. Sure, she thought Naruto looked extremely attractive when he got rid of all that orange. His smile was so radiant and warm it made you feel safe and secure. His blonde hair was so wild and untamed, but yet it looked soft, fluffy. But the thing that got her the most were his eyes. Those bright blue eyes that looked like you were swimming in an ocean full of brightly polished sapphires. and the way the sun hit his eyes wasn't fair, they just shone so brightly that it made her heart skip a beat. She wasn't able to get those eyes out of her mind, the way you could get lost in them and feel like you were swimming. "Oh Cammy, what am I thinking?" Tenten mentally shouted while blushing like crazy. She did not like Naruto, and that was final, or maybe she did. With Naruto. "You seem distracted, Naruto-kun, is something wrong?" A soothing voice asked while looking at the young blonde she views as a little brother. "Ayame Nichan, why are girls weird? I mean, today I was hanging out with someone who actually helped me buy groceries and some cookbooks. Then we went to a weapons shop, where that girl Tenten was blushing. I told her she might have been sick, but she kept denying it," Naruto stated while playing with his ramen. Ayame couldn't help but giggle at her little brother's density when it came to girls. She had to admit his new outfit definitely made her ogle him for a second. He looked serious, and the black enhanced his deep blue ocean eyes and his bright golden locks. "What was she doing when you were talking to her?" Ayame asked her little brother. As much as she loved him, she had to tease him since he didn't know this Tenten girl found him attractive. "Well, Yugao-san was talking to her while I was looking for a katana, then she called me over and Tenten's face started going red. I mean, if she was sick she should have gone home and slept to get better." "Oh Naruto-kun, this girl found you attractive, but I can't tell you this, hehe. I'm going to tease you merciless now," Ayame thought to herself. "I don't know, Naruto-kun, maybe it's like you said, she probably wasn't feeling good," Ayame said while giving him a warm smile. Maybe I should make her some soup tomorrow so she can feel better. Wouldn't want her to get sick, especially if it'll affect her on a mission," Naruto muttered to himself, making Ayame agree with him. "I'll see you later, Nei-chan," Naruto said while placing his money down and walking back to his apartment. A few minutes passed and Naruto made it home. After a quick shower and changing into a pair of boxers, he laid in bed. A lot had happened today, with Sakura yelling at him, with his meeting with Yugao and how she helped him feel happy after a shitty day. His meeting with Tenten still threw him off. He had one last thought on his mind. Neko-chan. With Yugao. Yugao was laying in bed, thinking about her day. It was a good change, she thought. For the past month she had done nothing all day but wandering around the village, thinking about how she could have saved Hayate. When she heard the news a month ago, she broke down. First, her parents had died when she was younger, and now Hayate, he was the only person she had left, and now he was gone. She had her life planned out with him. She would have become an Anbu commander and he would become an elite Junin. They would have kids and live happily ever after. At least that's what she thought would have happened. Now she was lonely. She smiled though when she thought about the blonde enigma known as Naruto Uzumaki, from earlier. It's as if Kami sent him her way. He had certainly improved her mood today. They had gone shopping and she enjoyed it. Of course she was a fearsome Anbu captain, but she was still a young woman and liked doing things girls do. Like shopping, for example, even though it was shopping for a blade. It surprised though how Naruto could turn someone's day upside down for the better. She might be one of the ice queens of Konoha, but somehow Naruto had warmed up her cold heart. Hanging out with him reminded her of Kushina when she was younger. Kushina would often babysit her sometimes and they would practice kenjutsu together. Kushina's loud and happy-go-lucky personality had passed on to Naruto and she was glad it did. She was downtrodden when she heard that Kushina died during the Kyuubi attack. She quickly put down those depressive thoughts to rest. She was already mourning her boyfriend's loss and she shouldn't add to it. Although she still didn't know why she felt angry when Tenten was ogling Naruto earlier. It kind of felt like when girls would try to ask out Hayate, except on a lesser level. I can't be thinking like that about Naruto, right? She then imagined him a little bit older and taller, and felt her face heat up. Yup. She was starting to develop something for Naruto. She didn't know what it was, but it made her stomach flutter a bit. She had only one thing on her mind as she let the darkness of sleep overtake her. Naruto-kun. Naruto has woken up around 5 in the morning and decided to go and train. He had grabbed the wooden katana that Yugao had given him so he could practice kenjutsu. A few hours passed while he was training as he wiped some sweat off of his face with his left arm. It looks like it's around 9:40, maybe I should go and take a shower and make some food. Plus I have to make Tenten some soup since she was sick yesterday. I'll ask Ba-chan for a few missions too, I need to gain more experience. Naruto thought to himself. He needed to get stronger and learn more jutsus. The Rasengan and Shadow clones were nice jutsus but he needed to learn more. Making his way back to his apartment, Naruto stopped when he saw a family playing together and laughing. He felt a twinge of jealousy in his heart but continued walking. Life could sometimes be unfair and this was one of those days. Deciding he didn't want to be sad, he decided to head back to his apartment quicker by running through the rooftops. It took him about 10 minutes to get back to his apartment where he made 2 clones, one to start making him breakfast and the second to make Tenten some soup to get better. He walked to his room and grabbed his towel and headed to the bathroom for a well-needed shower. A few minutes passed after he cleaned himself off and he was standing under the hot water letting it hit his face while he was deep in thought. If I want to get stronger I need to learn taijutsu. I can always ask Lee for help, I mean he is incredibly powerful when it comes to taijutsu. I should probably focus on fuinjutsu too. The way Arrow Sennin was able to seal up those black flames was incredibly intriguing. I wonder what else you could do. Yugao-san is going to train me in kenjutsu and she gave me the scroll and the wooden katana to practice until I get my own katana. Finally ninjutsu, I need more jutsus. Naruto thought to himself before getting a memory from his clone that breakfast was ready. Wait, did he just get the memory? What did that mean and why did he know how to make an omelet now? How did he know what ingredients were used for his breakfast? This confused him greatly, but he'd have to ask Ba-chan about this. If this was something he could use for his training, he'd use everything he could to help him get stronger. Stepping out of the shower, Naruto wrapped his towel around his waist and walked to his room to get dressed. A few minutes later he came out wearing a navy blue shirt with mesh armor on his elbows, black Anbu-style pants that were taped off on his right thigh and his kunai holster strapped to his right leg. His crimson-red fingerless gloves with metal platings on the back. He loved the fingerless gloves and wondered if he could get some in orange. Yes, he couldn't wear his jumpsuit anymore, but that didn't mean he could have some orange on his body. He'd definitely go to Higurashi Weapons Shop to see if they could make him some orange fingerless gloves. Walking to the kitchen, Naruto sat down and ate his omelet. It was pretty good. Those cooking tips from his Ne-chan were coming in handy. Maybe in a few months he'd be able to cook some mind-blowing food that would strip you of your clothes. Nah, that only happens in manga, right? How's the soup for Tenten coming along? Naruto asked his clone, who grunted. Why do I have to make it? It's not fair, and plus it's not like we know her. She didn't visit us while we were in the hospital. I mean, none of our friends came to visit us. The clone said using air quotes when he said friends. I know, but we can't let a fellow member of the Leaf get sick. It could be the downfall for a mission if she's sick. Naruto said, making the clone nod in agreement. Alright, fine. Here, taste it. I decided to go with chicken noodle soup since it's supposed to be good for the soul. The clone said while trying to figure out what's missing in the soup while giving the real one a taste. Let's chop up some astragalus and mix it in the soup. Let it sit in there while occasionally stirring it. Astragalus is said to help promotes healthy resistance from occasional physical and emotional stressors, and it also supports healthy immune functions. Astragalus also has been used to support the liver and deep immune system at the cellular level, plus it helps support the body's adrenals by allowing the body to naturally adapt to daily stress. Naruto said, making his clone looks at him like he grew a second head, making him look embarrassed. Wow, boss, didn't expect you to know so much about medical herbs or anything else of that matter. I mean, it's cool that you know it, but how do you know what astragalus does? The clone asked while finding the herb and breaking it up before adding it to the soup. Ba-chan brought me a book about medical herbs while I was in the hospital so I wouldn't be bored. so I decided to read it until I remembered everything in that book. I may not be able to use medical ninjutsu, but that doesn't mean that I can't learn the safety or dangers of medical herbs. Naruto said, smiling while his clone stirred the soup till it came to a nice simmer. Alright boss, try it now, I think it might be perfect this time. The clone said while Naruto grabbed a new spoon and tasted the soup. It was perfect and it gave a refreshing feel to it. Maybe he'd start incorporating medical herbs to his food from now on. Naruto looked at the clock and it was 11 inches. Alright, let's put this in a container and bring it to Tenten. I think she may be at her weapons shop. If not, we can go to Team 9's training ground and give it to her then. Grabbing a thermos, Naruto gently poured the soup in as he emptied the pan. Perfect. Glad the clone didn't use S huge pot but a small one instead. Naruto thought to himself while putting the lid on top and closing it. Now all he had to do was go look for Tenten and ask Ba-chan for a mission. Before he left, he tied his hitai around his neck and slipped on his chunin vest before heading out. With Tenten. Tenten was bored. She had woken up early and trained with Guy Sensei, did a quick D-rank mission, and now she was sitting behind the counter reading a magazine about clothing. Sure, she was a tomboy as most would say, but she was still a girl and would like to dress up nicely if she ever had the chance. Her mother was in the back making some new kunai since they were running kinda low on them. She heard the door open, making the bell ring, alerting of a customer. Welcome to Higurashi Weapons Shop. How can I assist you? Tenten asked while looking up from her magazine, seeing Ino and Sakura. Hey Tenten, how's work coming along? Ino asked while looking at her friend. Ino knew what it was like to work at a family-owned shop. She didn't mind it since she got to work with flowers, but sometimes it did get kinda boring, especially when it didn't get busy. It's fine, it's a slowly kind of day. Tenten replied while putting her magazine down and looking at her friends. After the Chunin exams, they had all hung out together and gathered Team 7, 8, 9 and 10 for get-togethers like lunch and sometimes karaoke. But one thing she did notice was that Naruto never once showed up to any of the get-togethers. She had always asked Sakura why that was, and she'd just say that he was a baka and ruin everything. Now that she thought about it, she never once did visit Naruto while he was in the hospital after the failed Sasuke retrieval mission. Did any of them visit him after the failed mission? She knew he was in the hospital for a week and a half and was curious. Hey, did you visit Naruto while he was in the hospital? Tenten asked Ino and Sakura, making Ino blink in confusion, and Sakura looked annoyed. Wait, Naruto was in the hospital? When did this happen? I bet he just fell on a kunai while training. Ino laughed out the last part, not knowing the reason why. I did, but that was the ask why he didn't keep his promise to me and bring back Sasuke-kun. Can you believe that he said he tried to bring him back? I mean, he's just jealous that Sasuke-kun is stronger than him. Sakura said while crossing her arms in annoyance. She knew that treating him like that wasn't appropriate, but he'd come back and beg her for dates like he always does, just so she could feel better about himself. Unknown to the three girls, Tenten's mother had been listening in on the conversation and was hoping that her daughter would defend the poor blonde. Kira has known his parents and had tried to adopt him when he was younger, but sadly the Sandaime refused, saying it'd be easier for Naruto if he grew up in the orphanage. He was wrong, deadly wrong. Now here she was hoping that her daughter would stand up for him, hoping that the blonde actually had a friend and wasn't alone like she had heard. You're probably right, he probably did fall on a kunai. I mean, it's not like he has talent to be a shinobi. Yesterday he came in trying to buy a katana. I wanted to berate him since he's the type to just swing it around with no grace at all. Tenten joked, making Ino and Sakura laugh. She felt bad for saying these things about him behind his back. Sadly for her and the other two girls, they never once noticed the young blonde listening in on the conversation or the hurt look in his eyes. Oh Tenten, I thought I raised you better than this. Minato and Kushina, I'm so sorry for how your son is being treated. I hope he can find someone who truly cares for him and can heal his broken heart. Kira thought to herself with a pained look in her eyes. Hey Tenten, Ino and Sakura. came a male voice behind them, making them flinch and pale, hoping he didn't hear what they said about them. Little did they know Naruto had heard everything. His stealth was the one of the things he prided himself on. He could get in anywhere and not be noticed unless he wanted to be noticed, and thanks to his darker clothes he just blended right in. Naruto, what are you doing here? Tenten asked in fear, hoping that he didn't hear what she had just said about him. She did like the blonde for helping Neji change his heart and mind and letting him know that if he didn't want to be held back by the chains that bind him, that he'd have to let go of the hatred in his heart. Well, yesterday you seemed sick, so I made you some soup to help you get better. I even added astragalus. It's a type of medical herb that helps the immune system and on occasions physical and emotional stressors, like your training. Naruto said before handing her the thermos. Before walking away, he stopped at the door and didn't look. You're welcome. I'll try not to fall on a kunai if you catch my drift, he said before leaving a sad Tenten and a scared Ino and Sakura. Tenten had a hurt look on her face. She had just disrespected Naruto, who had never once said anything bad about anyone, especially her. Yet here she was making fun of him so she wouldn't get judged by her peers. Minato, Kushina, your son is so strong and shoulders so much by himself. How much more can he shoulder before he finally has enough? Tenten's mother thought to herself before walking away with a tear running down her face. Hokage Tower. It had taken Naruto about 20 minutes to arrive at the Hokage Tower. He was hoping to get a mission where he could be gone for a couple of days. He also had a few questions he wanted to ask his Ba-chan, especially about the clones and about joining Anbu. He was hoping she'd let him. Anbu were the elite of the elite, and if he could join Anbu, then he'd be a part of that elite force. A force that works from the shadows, never once being noticed unless they allowed themselves to be noticed, a force that stuck fear in the hearts of enemies. Ruto. A soft, gentle voice called out, bringing him out of his thoughts. The woman was a fair-skinned, of average height and slender build, with onyx eyes and jet black hair. Her hair was straight and shoulder length, with bangs that cover her ears and frame her face. She was wearing a long bluish-black kimono with white trimmings, held closed by a white obi, and open-toed sandals with low heels. Oh hey Shizune Nichan, sorry I didn't see you there. I was lost in thought and didn't notice you, Naruto said, giving her one of his patent foxy smiles, making her look at her surrogate little brother with worry in her eyes. It's okay Naruto-kun, I was just asking if you were here to talk to Tsunade-sama about a mission or something important, Shizune asked while escorting him to Tsunade's office. So Naruto-kun, what seems to have you down? You don't seem like your usual self anymore, Shizune asked with a concerned voice. She knew what had happened in the hospital room with Sakura and she was pissed. She remembered when Sakura came in to ask Tsunade-sama if she'd take her on as an apprentice. Tsunade refused, saying that no one in this village was worthy of her teachings. She had kicked Sakura out so fast. If she didn't, then the pinkett would have been nothing but a stain on her fist. Oh, I just overhead something Nei-chan, and don't worry, I'll get over it. I can't let words get to me if I wanna be Hokage now, can I? He said with a smile that hid the pain and hurt in eyes. Shizune knew that he was giving her a fake smile. She had seen enough from Tsunade-sama to know when one was genuine or fake. As much as she wanted to pry, she didn't want to make him uncomfortable. She'd wait and talk to her master about this. Alright Naruto-kun, here we are, and please make sure you stay safe if you go in a mission. Tsunade-sama, Jiraiya-sama and I worry about you Naruto-kun, Shizune said in a warm, gentle voice, making him smile. At least he had a few people that cared about him. 6 people. He knew it wasn't a lot, but to him he'd do anything for them to make sure they were safe and happy. They were his family and he'd always protect his family no matter what. He'd probably have to stop by and talk to Iruka since he felt kinda bad for not talking to him for a few weeks. I promise Shizune Nichan, I'll always come back to my precious people, he said, giving her one of his rare true smiles. That smile wasn't big like his foxy smile. No, this smile was small and gentle. It was warm and inviting. It looked so right on his face. This smile was only meant for those he held close to his heart, a smile that held so much love for his precious people. After watching Shizune walk away, Naruto walked into the Hokage office and saw his Ba-chan going through paperwork. He thought she looked kinda funny, getting frustrated by a piece of paper like it was the vein of her existence, like it was just mocking her. Hey Ba-chan, I was wondering if I could get a mission, maybe something like bandit extermination. Naruto asked, making Tsunade raise an eyebrow at his mission request. Tsunade was a fair-skinned woman with honey brown eyes and straight blonde hair that was parted above her forehead. Her hair had a shoulder-length bangs that frame her face while reaching her lower back, which she kept it tied in two loose ponytails. A violet diamond shape was clearly visible on her forehead. Tsunade often wore grass-green haori with the kanji for gamble on the back, inside a red circle which was on the back of her chair. She wore a gray, kimono-style blouse with no sleeves, held closed by a broad, dark bluish-gray obi that matches her pants. Her blouse is closed quite low, revealing her sizable amount of cleavage. She wore a pair of open-toed, strappy black sandals with high heels, her red nail polish on both her fingernails and toenails, and uses a soft pink lipstick. I think I have one like that, brat, but can I ask why you want this kind of mission? Tsunade asked while looking at the young blonde who she viewed as her son in all but blood. She knew that something was bothering him, but knew he didn't like talking about his problems since he felt like he was disturbing other people's peace. When she saw what Sakura did to him, she was ready to kill the scrawny pinkett for slapping him. When she asked to be taken on as an apprentice, she refused immediately and kicked the girl out of her office even quicker. I just want to clear my head, and a mission can help me with that. Plus, I had a couple of questions that I wanted to ask you. First, I had my clones make me breakfast, and for some reason I got their memories like I was doing what they were doing. Do you have any idea why that is? Naruto asked her. The shadow clones are a justice that people utilize for information gathering, and when the clone finally disperses any new knowledge it gains, it's passed back to the original ninja and any additional clones. So if you use this for, let's say, training everything the clones learn, like chakra control or hand signs, you'll gain that knowledge. It doesn't work for physical training, but it does help you with muscle memory. Now add in the multi-shadow clone jutsu and you'll be able to learn a lot quicker. Tsunade said. So I could use the clones for training. This is very interesting. Not only will it give me a huge boost, but essentially I could make so much more progress. Naruto thought to himself. What's your second question, brat? Tsunade asked, probably already knowing what he was going to ask her. Yugao and Kakashi both came to her yesterday and talked to her about Naruto joining Anbu. She thought they were crazy when she first told them, but after hearing them out she figured it'd be a perfect fit for him. I was wondering if you'd let me join Anbu. I know they're considered the elite of the elite. I want to get stronger, and if it means joining Anbu to push myself to get stronger, even if it means that they break me down and build me up, I will do whatever it takes to become an elite shinobi. Naruto declared with fire burning in his eyes. The pure determination that he was producing made Tsunade smile. Even the Anbu hidden in the room were smirking at the blonde's determination, and couldn't help but get fired up. After their shift they were going to train hard to make sure they stayed at their peak fighting condition. They couldn't be shown up by a newly minted chunin even if they did like the blonde and kept them on their toes. I don't see why not, brat. You probably have more reasons, but for this one time I'll grant you permission to join Anbu. Plus you also had two people who spoke to me about you joining Anbu, and one of my captains requested you by name specifically. Tsunade said, making Naruto smile at her warmly. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Naruto said respectfully while bowing. It was one of those extremely rare occurrences when Naruto showed the proper respect for the Hokage, and when he did you'd better cherish it since it was rare to ever have him respect you like that again. Your mission will be AC rank bandit extermination. A small town called Shinto Town requested a group of chunin to exterminate them. I want you to choose a team to go with you and to take care of the camp. Tsunade said while handing the scroll to Naruto, making him nod. I take it I'll be the team leader, correct? Naruto asked. He knew he was a freshly minted chunin and should probably bring someone who had more experience and who could help guide him and who wouldn't just argue with him the entire time. He also needed someone who he could trust and who wouldn't let him down, especially if it meant his life being on the line. Yes, you are, and I expect you to show everyone why you were promoted to chunin. Remember, be level-headed and stay calm. It won't look good if you just rush into anything. One more thing, brat. On this mission you will end up having your first kill, and when you come back, come straight to me so you can talk to someone. It won't do you any good to just bottle up your emotions. Tsunade said while looking at him with worried-filled eyes. I promise, Ba-chan. With Yugao. Yugao was having a good day. It was one of those rare days when she had off, and instead of just staying home she decided that it'd be better for her to hang out with her friends. She knew they were worried about her ever since Hayate died. She had been suffering from depression and been taking on suicidal missions in hope to see him again. But when Naruto had bumped into her yesterday, she decided that she'd made a change and head out to lunch with her friends. A knock could be heard on her door and answered it, seeing 3 different girls, and she smiled. The first girl had beautiful porcelain skin with a slender build. Her has long black untamed hair reaching her upper back, and had very unique eyes that were red in color, with an additional ring in them. She wore light makeup consisting of red lipstick and purple eyeshadow. Her outfit consisted of a red mesh armor blouse with only the right sleeve visible, a dress with a material that looked like it resembled bandages with a pattern on it similar to those of rose thorns. Her hands and upper thighs are also wrapped in bandages, and she wore her hitai around her forehead and regular shinobi sandals. The second was a fairly tall woman who has a nice slender frame. Her light brown, pupil-less eyes were cute, and her hair was a beautiful shade of violet that was styled in a short, spiky, fan ponytail that resembled a pineapple. She wore a fitted mesh bodysuit that covered her from her neck down to her thighs. Over her bodysuit she wore a tan overcoat with a purple inseam and a pocket on each side, with a dark orange mini skirt, and a dark blue belt, with pale gray shin guards. In addition to the typical style she wore her hitai, she also wears a small pendant that looks like a snake fang and a wristwatch. The last girl had long brown hair which she wore in a ponytail with 2 locks of hair framing her face over her large, black eyes. She also wore a light shade of lipstick and had the traditional fang-like tattoos of the Inuzuka clan on both of her cheeks, in addition to a tattoo on her upper right arm that resembles a flower. She was wearing a brace on her left wrist, with bracelets on her right hand as well as bandages. She wore a green chunin flak jacket which didn't have any chest pockets, and the front of her jacket unzipped, exposing some of her cleavage. She also wore a pair of form-fitting shorts cut just above the knee, bandages just below her tattoo, and wrist warmers. She had a noticeably softer appearance than the other members of her family, not having slit-like eyes, or wild, shaggy hair. These 3 girls were her best friends Kurenai Yuhi, Enko Mitarashi, and Hana Inuzuka. She and Hana were in the academy together and had graduated early along with Hayate. Later on, the 2 girls met Kurenai and Enko and found out they had a lot of stuff in common, from their hatred for perverts to loving trips to hot springs and on occasions having a girls' night where they'd watch movies and just be girls. So you finally decided to come out and play? Enko said with a smirk on her face while looking at her friend. Enko had been happy when she met Yugao and Hana. They didn't care that she was Orochimaru's ex-apprentice, they liked her for her. She had been saddened when Yugao had cut them off from her life after Hayate's death. When they heard about it, they had immediately rushed to her side hoping to be there for their friend. Sadly, Yugao had been deep in depression and wouldn't answer her door for anybody. I'm sorry for worrying you 3, it's just I didn't want to deal with anyone and feel like they were going to pity me. I know I should have reached out to you 3, but I was scared that you'd see me in such a weak state that you'd feel pity. Yugao told them honestly. The one thing she hated the most was pity. She was an Anbu captain and she earned that rank through hard work. No one would ever pity her. We'd never pity you, and you know that, Baka. Besides, Anko-chan was close to kicking your door down and dragging you out. Hana giggled while Anko pouted. As Yugao smiles at her friends, she was happy that she had friends like them. They were rare to find. I'm glad you're doing better, Yugao-chan, and you should know by now that none of us would have given you any pity. We care too much for you to ever think for such things. Kurenai said while smiling warmly at her friend. What Kurenai had said was true. The four of them never once pitied each other. They always made sure that the other was happy when going went rough. They'd go out and about making sure that you never once felt alone or depressed. Now let go get some dango. Anko shouted as she wrapped her snakes around the three unexpected women and ran off laughing like a madman. Anko loved dango. To Anko, dango was like ramen as to Naruto. Never insult her dango in her presence or you'd find yourself in the belly of a snake. A few minutes later, and three dizzy women were now sitting at a dango bar with a smirking Anko who was rubbing the back of her head in embarrassment. I said sorry, I was just hungry and I thought we were taking forever and my dango was calling my name. It's not like I used poisonous snakes. Anko pouted childishly, making the other three girls giggle. A few minutes passed and their food had arrived. They had talked about random stuff from clothing to genjutsu. Hell, they even talked about past dates. They would have continued but stopped when they saw a mop of bright blonde hair walking towards them. Finally found you, crazy snake lady. Naruto said while looking at her like he needed something important. What do you want, Gaki? As you can see, Mama is enjoying her delicious dango. Now scram before I shove a kunai up your. Anko huffed out in annoyance from being interrupted from her precious dango. Yay. I have a question for you. I'm going on a C rank mission and I need to bring 2 more people with me and was wondering if you'd want to tag along. You'll be able to play with blood all you want. Naruto said, hoping she'd agree to go with him. Who's leading the mission, Gaki? Anko asked. She didn't hate the blonde, in fact she found him to be quite fun to be around when they crossed paths. If Naruto has changed his hair color to violet and gotten rid of his whiskers, he and Anko could have passed off as siblings easily. I am. It's my first time leading missions and I wanted someone with experience and who I could trust. I know I'm a newly minted chunin, but I was hoping with your guidance that you'd be able to give me pointers and show me how to properly conduct missions. Naruto said in a professional tone, shocking both Kurenai and Hana. Kurenai had looked at Naruto and noticed his lack of orange and noticed that he looked a bit more mature. The old Naruto wouldn't have admitted that he needed help, but this new Naruto shocked her. Throw in some dango and you have yourself a deal. Anko said with a smirk on her face, knowing she'd be getting some free dango from the blonde whiskered boy. How about instead I offer to make you dango and you help me on this mission? Naruto countered back. He knew all about Anko's addiction to dango and he'd rather not be broke from buying her that much dango. Fine brat, you have a deal, and just know this, if I think your plan is stupid I'm calling you out on it, got it? Anko said while glaring at him before feeling Yugao kick her leg under the table, making her stop glaring at him. I wouldn't have it any other way, Anko-san, and I apologize for ruining your lunch, Kurenai-san, Inuzuka-san and Yugao-san. Naruto said while leaving, but not before telling Anko they'll be leaving in an hour and a half. He's changed a lot, Kurenai said while looking at the retreating form of one Uzumaki Naruto. She remembered seeing him alone in his hospital room when she went to go visit her student Kiba after the failed retrieval mission. When she saw Shizune, she asked if any of his friends had visited Naruto, and much to her shock Shizune told her none of them came to visit him besides her, Tsunade and Jiraiya, Ayame, Tsuki and Aruka. Gaara came to visit him before he had to return to Suna. Yay, he has. He even helped me come out of my depression. Just spending a day with him makes you feel happy and warm. I just wish more people could see that. It's sad that his so-called friends never came to visit him while he was in the hospital. They had time to visit everyone else but purposely avoided him. Yugao said while giving out a sad sigh. She felt bad and she knew that her sensei and her husband were probably turning around in their graves, When she had asked him about his friends, she saw the confused look on his face. She was shocked when he only talked about 7 people and only one of them was his age but from a different village. With the Rookie 11. The Rookie 11 could be currently found in a BBQ restaurant talking about what they've been up to in their young lives. This was a regular occurrence. Of course, the ones to get everybody together were the girls. The ones talking the most being Ino and Sakura. The 2 chatterboxes of the group. Always seeking attention and approval of others. Sitting off to the side, the guys were talking about missions they've been on in their short shinobi careers, especially Kiba. The boy loved to talk, and then the enemy shinobi jumped in front of me. They just tuned him out like always, except for Lee. Kiba is what you call a man who is all bark, no bite. He could talk the talk, but he couldn't walk the walk. That is most youthful. We should spar some time, Kiba-san, shouted Rock Lee, causing the people around him to wince. They wondered how the guy could be so loud and not lose his voice. Did he have vocal cords made of steel? Hee, surely, said Kiba, looking away, rubbing the back of his head, completely betraying his thoughts. There was no way he would want to spar with Lee, nope. He saw how skilled Lee was during the second round of the Chunin exams, and there was no way he wanted to spar with the guy. Especially after seeing how he could transform, becoming stronger, faster, and more vicious. Troublesome, muttered Shikamaru. By the way, where's Naruto? I haven't seen him in a while. He asked the group, causing everyone to drop what they were talking about with the boy's name being mentioned. Why do you care about the dead last? He'd probably ruin this get-together anyways. I mean, he was always the weakest out of all of us. Kiba boasted, whole puffing out his chest. Sure you are, Kiba, that's why you're considered yourself strongest genin. Shikamaru, I need you for a mission. You weren't really my first option, but I guess you'll have to do. I would have preferred Azumo or Ketsu, but I can't have one without the other, and I already chose Anko to be a part of this mission. Naruto said, slightly annoyed that he'd have to use Shikamaru for this mission. Troublesome. Do I really have to go? Shikamaru groaned out in annoyance. He really wanted to relax and not deal with any missions today. He just wanted to sleep and watch the clouds. Hey Gaki, I found our third person. Anko shouted from outside, making Naruto smile. Thank Kami. Naruto said with a smile on his face while walking outside, and was shocked about who was outside with Anko. Well, what are we waiting for, Naruto-kun? We have a mission to complete, said the voice, making Naruto smile. Shish Shizune Nichan, what are you doing here? Naruto asked in confusion while looking at the Ravenet in confusion. He didn't expect Anko to help find someone, especially a medic nin. That greatly confused him. Why did Anko bring a medic with her? Remember, Gaki always, and I mean always, have a teammate who knows medical ninjutsu. It'll be helpful in the long run. Most shinobi just pass off medics since they're not close-range fighters. But not me, brat. I value medics above all else. When I was in Anbu, having a medic on my squad was extremely helpful and life-saving. They pulled R out of so much trouble, Anko said while patting Shizune on her back, making the woman blush in embarrassment from being praised so much. Alright, so make sure that no matter what mission I have, to always bring a medic with me. Know that I think about it. It does seem like the perfect idea. I mean, most people ignore them and don't care much about the idea since they feel like they have to protect them, Naruto said while they made their way to the village gates. Why doesn't Hokage Ba-chan just train more combat medics? I mean, it'll help us in the long run, making sure that all of us come back safe and not having to resort to other villages' hospitals, Naruto asked as he pulled out the scroll and signed out for his mission with Anko and Shizune. She tried getting them during the Second War, but she was shot down. You could always talk to her about it, Naruto-kun. I'm sure if you bring up valid points and give a good argument, she'd be more than happy to comply, Shizune replied while looking at her little brother figure. She was still shocked that Anko had literally kidnapped her for this mission. What kind of person throws another person into a sack and says, "We're going on a mission"? Shizune had decided it'd be nice to help Naruto on his first mission as leader. She'd be able to heal him and help guide him. He'd be more comfortable leading missions on his own. I'll definitely talk to her about this. Now the town we're headed to is called Gazi Town. They don't have any shinobi, but they do have a police force, but the mayor says that some of the police force have been paid off by the bandits to turn a blind eye so they can smuggle women and children for trade. What I was thinking was I'd make a few clones and have them henge into vulnerable tourists, so they can capture the bandits' attention. Naruto said while he and his two teammates were hopping through the trees. The town was a 2-day travel. Enough to make a plan and backup plans. How do you plan on doing that, Gaki? Clones are a good idea, but the henge isn't flawless, it's easily disrupted. You'll also have to put into consideration on who you can trust and how to go about this too. You can't just waltz into a town and act like a lost tourist, without raising some kind of suspicion. Anko said while poking some holes through his plan. Naruto knew she was right. He'd have to come up with an idea. He'd been training in Fuinjutsu and the most he was able to do was just make storage seals. He could probably make a few clones and overload them with chakra so once they unsealed it the clones would explode, causing some mayhem and confusion. He had a lot to learn and he was more than eager to learn. No one gets anywhere by themselves. I can always act like a lost tourist myself and say that my family is looking for me and they'd pay a hefty price for my safety. You and Shizune Nichan can go to a bar and gather information as well. One thing I learned from Ero Sennin is that most guys tend to get loose-lipped when drunk and around attractive females. Naruto said, not noticing Shizune's blush from being called attractive. Sugaki, you think Anko-chan is attractive? Kukuku. If only you were older I'd definitely show my gratitude. Your blood is still my favorite and I can't wait till you get older. Who knows, I may rock your world. Anko cooed while licking her lips seductively, while laughing as Naruto almost fell on his face from being teased by the Jonin. Why did he ask her to help him on this mission? Oh right, she doesn't sugarcoat anything. If a plan sucks she'll tell you to your face and point out all the flaws. This is why he asked her to join him. She was blunt and honest. This is what he wanted in his teammates, someone who was willing to tell you how it was and not sugarcoat anything. He was going to make sure he absorbed everything Anko and Shizune told him. If this mission was successful he'd be able to lead more missions, more responsibility, a better chance of him becoming stronger. His main goal was to join Anbu and become strong enough to be an Anbu captain. They had just arrived 2 days ago and had found to a hotel room. They were heading to talk to the mayor of the town. The three of them noticed how tense everyone was and made note of how the police force would look at them then walk away. They were mostly eyeing Anko and Shizune, thinking that they'd be easy targets to capture. Oh, how wrong they were. Looks like we're not really wanted here, don't you think, Gaki and Shizune-chan? Anko asked while stealthily sending some snake summons out to gather intel like Naruto had told her to do. He wanted every advantage he could get. If Anko's snake summons could find out where the bandit camp was, then that'd be a plus for them. Alright Gaki, we found a hotel and now what? Anko asked while spinning a kunai out of boredom. She really wanted to go stab someone, she missed seeing blood. We should go talk to the mayor and figure out what we're dealing with. If we can get as much information as possible it'll be helpful in the long run. Information is key to our survival. Naruto said while walking towards the door and making a few clones and hang them into random-looking civilian girls. He would make sure that they caught some attention. Let's head out, Anko-sensei and Shizune Nichan. Naruto said while they left towards the mayor's building. Don't worry Naruto-kun, we'll make sure that we help you complete this mission no matter what. Anko-san and I will also be running a mental evaluation on you after the mission is completed to make sure that you're still fit for active duty. Shizune replied while placing her hand on his shoulder. How do you guys deal killing? How do you force yourself to go through with it without hesitating? Naruto asked in a sad voice. He knew he'd have to kill eventually, as was life of being a shinobi. The best way to do it is by killing your emotions, Gaki. Remember this, your enemy is going to be trying to kill you too, so whether you want to come back home or not is entirely up to you. You can kill your emotions and kill your enemy, or be a little bitch who lets your opponent kill you instead. Anko said in a blunt-like fashion, making Shizune sigh at the kunoichi's bluntness. I understand and I see where you're coming from, Anko-sensei. If you kill your emotions during a fight, not only will you be able to kill your opponent, but they won't be able to use your emotions against you. Naruto said while simplifying her unorthodox explanation. He smiled at her and could see the proudness in her eyes. For some reason he just felt close to the woman, not in a romantic sense but in more of a sibling sense or even a mother figure. Look at that, Gaki, you're not as dumb as people make you out to be. Wonder where you got this new gained knowledge from. Anko teased. She knew that Jiraiya and the Hokage had brought him books to read while he was in the hospital for a week and a half. Since none of classmates came to visit him, all he did was read to pass time. She had felt bad when she saw him alone just reading. That night she had left him some dango when he was in the hospital. She had started viewing the young blonde as something, as maybe a son or little brother, and she'd make sure that she trained him properly on how to cope with killing. After meeting with the mayor, one of Anko's summons appeared back and gave them directions to the bandit camps. Here they were watching them. He knew rushing in would be stupid. It'd be the fastest way to get him and his teammates killed. He had to plan this out and figure out a good way to attack. Making a clone, he had it henge into a bird and had it fly around the camp and perch itself on a branch before dispelling. You ready, Gaki? Came the voice of one Anko. She was worried about the blonde but knew he'd have to do this and get through it. She'd help him through his first kill and make sure he didn't succumb to the darkness. A lot of good people never went back to being themselves after killing, and she wanted to make sure that he kept some of his personality intact. Why, yay, Naruto said with a slight hesitation in his voice. He took a deep breath to calm his nerves. Today was the day that he became a shinobi. Today was the day that he would make his first kill. He was nervous, but he had to kill his emotions. Shizune, I want you to spread some poison around the camp. It'll weaken them and it'll help us by giving us the advantage. Anko, I want you to summon a few snakes and have them bite as many bandits as possible. Once I finish killing them, I want you and Shizune to administer the antidotes to the hostages. I'll make sure to make enough clones to help them escape. Naruto said while Anko and Shizune nodded. While the plan was a bit reckless, but it did prove to be thought out carefully. The snakes and poison mist would cause a huge commotion, and since Naruto was immune to poisons, it proved to be a plan that would only put himself in danger while the others were able to get to safety with minimal damage. After getting in close without being spotted or noticed, the plan was set in motion. Purple smoke expelled from Shizune's mouth as snakes slithered in the camp as the men and women were screaming and inhaling the poisons. Some felt fangs in their legs and started feeling sick, causing them to throw up. Some didn't even notice as Naruto sliced their necks, killing them instantly. Shizune and Anko watched as the clones were bringing out the kidnapped women. Shizune and Anko immediately went to treat them, giving them the antidotes as they smiled at them and hugged them. In the camp, Naruto hardened his heart as he watched a couple of bandits run towards him as they staggered and yelled. Moving to the side and dodging a katana swipe, Naruto brought his knee up to the man's stomach before impaling his kunai through the man's neck, killing him instantly. A blank look remained on Naruto's face before flinging his kunai towards a female who rushed at him with a bow staff. With a swift motion he threw the kunai and watched as it flew through the air as it met its target. The sound of gurgling could be heard as Naruto picked up the katana and rushed forward before making more clones. Bandit after bandit fell. He and his clones would slice or stab their way through them. He wanted this mission to be over. He felt sick to his stomach and wanted to throw up. He steeled his resolve before slicing off a woman's head as the look of shock and horror never left her face. Years of abuse and instincts told Naruto to duck as a battle axe was swung where his head was located. You, cough cough. You're good brat, but let's see how you really do. The man coughed out through the poison mist. Naruto readied himself. One mistake and he'd die. one wrong move and it'd cost him his life. He watched as the man rushed forward and brought the battle axe in a downward slash, making Naruto dodge. With an instant the man resumed his attack as he brought his axe back up in an upward slash. Years of dodging saved his life as the man was able to slice some of his clothing in the cloth holding his hit, making it fall the ground. Yo! Cough cough cough. The man spat out some blood before composing himself. I won't lie, brat, you got lucky. If this poison and those snakes hadn't weakened me, I know you'd be dead by now. The man fainted, trying to goad Naruto into making a mistake. I won't lie, this is the first mission that I'm leading myself, and this is the first time I've killed. I know I'd be dead if I didn't have my teammates weaken you, but that doesn't mean I'll go down without taking you with me. Even the strongest of men can be taken down by a civilian if the moment is right or if the numbers are too great. Naruto said before adding some chakra to the kodachi. He'd definitely keep this. It was rare to find chakra metal, but to find a kodachi or katana that was made from chakra metal was even rarer. Smart brat. Most kids your age would have let their emotions get in the way, or they'd never admit that they'd be dead. He smirked. Naruto. I didn't ask for your name, brat, but since you were kind enough to tell me yours, my name is Ken. He said with a smirk before rushing in while swinging his battle axe towards the blonde's midsection. He watched as Naruto brought up the kodachi and blocked his attack. A fight for dominance was seen before Naruto spammed his foot into the man's stomach, making him lose his balance. Whether it was instincts or from the clone's memories, Naruto brought up, grabbed his Ken's battle axe and yanked it forward before slamming his kodachi through his heart. Cough cough cough, that was a good plan. Ken said before falling backwards with his eyes closed. Not that Naruto would ever know, but he had earned the respect of Ken Zaku. A man known for his ruthlessness and heartless, he had killed many in his life and never once in his life did he care for others. But Naruto admitted to him that if he didn't weaken him, he'd surely be dead. That's what made Naruto earn his respect. A week had passed since completing the mission and Yugao was standing outside Naruto's door. She knew that he was depressed and couldn't sleep, constantly waking up from nightmares. She felt bad for the blonde but knew that being out with friends would help him. So here she was, picking up Naruto to hang out with her and a few of her friends. Naruto, open this door before I kick it down and drag you out by your ear. Yugao shouted before she heard shuffling and some curses. From the sounds of it, Naruto must have tripped. A few seconds later, a sleep-deprived Naruto answered the door. A week had passed since completing the mission and Yugao was standing outside Naruto's door. She knew that he was depressed and couldn't sleep, constantly waking up from nightmares. She felt bad for the blonde but knew that being out with friends would help him. So here she was, picking up Naruto to hang out with her and a few of her friends. Naruto, open this door before I kick it down and drag you out by your ear. Yugao shouted before she heard shuffling and some curses. From the sounds of it, Naruto must have tripped. A few seconds later, a sleep-deprived Naruto answered the door. Oh hey Yugao. She looked over him and noticed the bags under his eyes and knew he hadn't been sleeping. From what Anko and Shizune told her, he had decided it'd be best if he killed the bandits while they healed the hostages from the poison mist that Shizune produced. His disheveled hair most likely caused from turning in his sleep. She was worrying about him. He wasn't talking to anyone about his kills, most likely because he felt like he'd be ruining their day if he went to them for advice. Naruto, get dressed. You're going to spend the day with me. I don't want to hear you complaining about not wanting to waste my time. I have a mission in 3 hours, and in those 3 hours you're going to talk to me about what's bothering you. Yugao said with a stern voice, leaving no room for arguments. Naruto let out a sigh as he slowly nodded. He knew Yugao was going to let this drop until he talked to her. He really wanted to say he didn't have to listen to her since she wasn't her sensei or mother, but he knew that would lead nowhere and only cause more problems. Alright, let me get dressed then, Yugao. Naruto said before opening the door wider to let her in. Say what people would want, but Naruto was a neat freak. His entire apartment was clean and tidy. He's been overly cleaning again. Yugao thought while she let out a sigh. She knew it was a coping mechanism for himself. Only 3 people knew, and one of them was dead and the other was a missing nin who was after his fury tenant. I see you've been cleaning again, Naruto. Yugao said loud enough for him to hear her. She looked over his table and encounters. Not a speck of dust could be seen and the smell of cleaning chemicals were strong. She heard some laughing downstairs and knew it was the brothel that he lived above of. Why yay, it's calming, and plus I've been cooking a lot too, so that's been very helpful. There's some homemade chakra protein bars in the fridge if you want any. Naruto said while putting on some clean clothes. Thank you, Naruto, I'll be sure to seal some up for my mission. Yugao said before opening his fridge. She noticed them on a plate covered in foil and grabbed a sealing scroll from her vest and grabbed a couple of the chakra protein bars. I added some minced fruit in them too, a mixture of strawberries, oranges, and some have cherries too. Naruto said while walking out of his room. She noticed he was wearing a short-sleeved navy blue shirt, with black Anbu-style pants with his right knee taped off. His necklace was safely hidden behind his shirt. She looked him over one last time and patted his head as she smiled. Now let's go get some lunch and you can tell me what's been bothering you, Naruto. Yugao said with a smile on her face as they walked towards the door and put their shinobi sandals back on. So are you going to tell what's been bothering you for the past couple of days? Yugao asked while holding a cup of tea in her hands and slowly bringing it up to her lips as she took a sip while looking at her blonde companion across from her. Do you think I'm a monster? Naruto quietly asked her. It was something that's been nothing him for a few days and he desperately wanted to know if she viewed him as a monster. Sure, being a shinobi or kunoichi meant killing, but once he killed them he felt like he was nothing but a monster. No, you're not. We're ninjas. Killing is in our job description. No matter how badly we all want to avoid it, we can't. You killed on your mission because you had to kill them. If you didn't, who knows what would have happened to the girls you, Anko and Shizune saved. Yugao said while looking at the blonde in front of her. She knew he was hurting. Having to kill 20-some people for his first kill wasn't something most people experienced during their first kills. I can still see their faces at night. They're calling me a monster, a murder, a demon. I don't know how to deal with it. I wanted to talk to Kakashi-sensei about it, but I know he's still upset about Sasuke defecting. He's been taking any mission that involves Orochimaru, and I feel like he just tried to pass me off to someone else. Naruto whispered out. He hated trying to ask for help since he's been alone all his life. He practically raised himself after he was kicked out of the orphanage. He lived on the streets for a good 3 years and taught himself how to steal and pickpocket so he could survive from the little food he could buy. Hell, he even taught himself how to hunt and skin rabbits. It wasn't until he was 6 when the old man found him and set him up with his apartment over the brothel. I know you've been alone pretty much all of your life, Naruto, but I want you to know that you do have friends that you can talk to. Friend that'll be more than happy to help you through this. Yugao said with a gentle and warm voice while looking at him with kind eyes. She knew about his life and she'd always try her best to make it somewhat manageable. She'd sometimes buy him some fruits and veggies or even some new clothes. Naruto snorted when she said that he had friends. Most of them blamed Naruto for Sasuke being able to go to Orochimaru. Hell, not even one of them came to visit him while he was in the hospital. What kind of friends were they if they blamed him and didn't care about his well-being? No, he didn't need them as friends. Gaara was his one true friend and yet he considered him more of a brother than a friend. My so-called friends didn't even come to visit me while I was in the hospital. The only one who did was Gaara, and he's from a different village. I mean, I went to the academy with them and yet they keep blowing me off and saying I'm weak. Naruto said while taking a sip of his water. He didn't view them as friends. Friends to him were supposed to drop by and come visit you announced or unannounced, yet none of them ever did that. When Hinata was in the hospital, he came by and brought her a get well card and a flower. Hell, he even brought Kiba an apology card for farting in his face. When Lee was severely injured, he and Shikamaru saved him from being killed by Gaara, yet none of them came to visit him besides Gaara, and even he brought him some sushi and some books and scrolls on chakra control and wind ninjutsu and taijutsu. Yugao let out a sigh and knew what Naruto was saying was true. She could also see a hint of anger in his eyes and knew she needed to stop it before it got out of hand. Naruto, have you ever decided to go and talk to them first? I mean, sometimes all they need is a little push, and you'll become good friends with them. Besides, being angry about this isn't a good thing. You shouldn't be angry, it's not you. Yugao finished, hoping he'd take her words into consideration. Why the hell not? Naruto yelled while standing up and slamming his hands down on the table. He looked at her with anger evident in his eyes. Why can't I be angry? Why is it that I'm only allowed to be the positive, upbeat one? I have emotions other than happiness too, so why can I be angry or resentful? Naruto whispered out while he slowly sat back down on his seat and looked at the ground. Why wouldn't anyone let him feel these emotions? Did they just want him to be the stupid idiot all the time who always put others' happiness over his own? He had a right to these emotions, and yet no one wanted him to feel them or express them. Numb, he just wanted to feel numb again. When he first met the old man, he was numb. Hell, when he was found, he had a dislocated shoulder and blood running down his forehead. But somehow he didn't feel the pain anymore. He was numb and he liked it. I should be going. Pervy Sage wanted to talk to me about something, and you have a mission. Naruto said with a detached voice while putting some money down and walked away. Why was everyone trying to make him out to be their ray of sunshine? Why could he have some light in his darkness? Where was his sunshine? Naruto. Yugao whispered as she watched him walk away. She knew he was allowed to feel his anger and resent, but everyone feared that the Kyuubi would try and escape if he allowed himself to feel those emotions. Yet he had a shitty life and no one ever really asked him how he truly felt, only telling him that things would get better if given time. Naruto was walking through the streets annoyed. Why wouldn't they let him just be angry for once in his life? He was angry when Kakashi blew him off during the Chunin exams but faked a smile. He was angry because he was weak and his sensei did nothing to train him to get stronger. Yes, he knew Kakashi was strong as a ninja, but as a teacher he was as useful as a mop on a rainy day. Watch it dead last, Kiba said while glaring at Naruto. Kiba didn't care if Naruto was a Chunin. To him he'd always be the dealast and clanless loser. Hinata looked at Kiba and Naruto. She wanted to stand up for Naruto, but Kiba was her friend and teammate. Maybe she'd apologize to him when she was alone and say it was Kiba being Kiba. She knew he'd forgive it and agree and laugh it off. Kurenai-san, you should really teach your genin manners. I could have him reprimanded for disrespecting a superior. Clan heir or not, he needs to learn how to respect those who outrank him. Attitudes like that will get him and his teammates killed. Naruto practically growled out in anger, making the three genin flinch at Naruto's cold, emotionless words. Naruto, he's your friend, maybe you can look it over. Kurenai asked, hoping that he'd just drop it since friendships were always formed during the academy. Last time I checked, Gaara was my only friend. If you're not going to reprimand your genin, then I will. He needs to learn to respect his superiors. If he goes on a mission with someone he doesn't like, he'll have to learn to shut his damn mouth, or else it'll end in his death or his teammate's death. Naruto said before pushing past them. He was getting even more pissed. He needed to blow off steam. He needed to just yell or do something. Kurenai watched as Naruto walked away and let out a sigh. She knew that Naruto would talk to the Hokage if she didn't take care of it first. Naruto, you need to let that anger go. Kurenai thought to herself before sending Kiba a deathly glare that made him shrink. After leaving Team 8, he walked towards Higurashi Weapons Shop to buy some new fingerless gloves. Hopefully they had something orange. It would probably make him a bit happier if he had some orange. He looked up and saw the shop and made his way towards the door. Welcome to Higurashi Weapons Shop, Tenten said while not looking up from her magazine. Hello, I was wondering if you had any fingerless gloves in orange. Naruto asked, making Tenten look up with a weird face before realizing who it was. Oh nah Naruto, how are you? Tenten asked, hoping he would have forgiven her for what she had said about him. She knew what she said was rude and hurtful, but since she knew he was a forgiving person, that they'd be friends again. I'm wondering if you sell orange fingerless gloves. If you don't, then I'd like to put in an order for a customized pair, maybe 10 pairs should be fine. Naruto replied with a professional voice, hoping he could either buy the gloves or put the orders in and get out. What's wrong with him? It's like he's not even trying to be friends with me. Usually he'd say that it's water under the bridge and we'd be friends again, but something seems off. Tenten said while looking at him with confused eyes. I think we have some. A few years ago my mother made some for a customer who requested them, but sadly they never picked them up. She said that the person died the night of the Kyuubi attack. Tenten said while standing up and going to the back and grabbing a box that was covered in a thick layer of dust. Naruto had a sorrowful look on his face when he heard that. The client never got to use these gloves because of his tenant. He vowed to himself that he'd honor the person who put the order in for them. Here they are, Tenten said while coming back with the box and sat it down on the counter before opening them up and showing them to Naruto. They were beautiful. A sunset orange, they weren't too bright or too dark, they were perfect in his opinion. They had metal platings on the back for protection and he noticed a few seals on them. How much are they? Naruto asked while looking at Tenten. He didn't care how much they'd be. He had more than enough money thanks to the bounty he collected from Kenzaku. You can just take them, Naruto-san. The client already prepaid for them, but she died. Besides, I think she'd want you to have them since you both love orange. Kira said, walking in from the back of the store, while giving him a warm motherly smile. Oh, are you sure? I mean, I can still pay for them, it's not an issue. I mean, I collected a bounty a week ago and I really haven't used any of the money. Naruto said while feeling awkward that Kira wanted to give him the gloves for free even though they were already paid for. Trust me, Naruto, I know for a face that she would want you to have these gloves. She loved orange just like you do and she'd know you'd put them to good use, so please take them, honor her wish, and in her words, make these gloves the most badass gloves ever. Kira said while handing Naruto the box full of gloves. Thank you, Kira-san. I can't thank you enough, and I swear that I'll make these gloves badass like how the original owner wanted them to be. Naruto said with a small bow before gently picking up the box. I know I shouldn't ask, but what was her name? Naruto asked. Kushina. Kira said with a warm smile on her face. I'm telling you guys, Naruto was acting different. I mean, he seemed cold for some reason. Hell, he didn't even consider us friends. I mean, come on, in the academy we used to get in trouble a lot. Kiba practically shouted at them while they had their annual lunch with each other. That is most unyouthful, Kiba-kun. Lee shouted while looking at his friend. He too couldn't believe that his youthful friend Naruto would do something like this to them. Did any of you ever go visit him while he was in the hospital, or talk to him after the retrieval mission? Or how about ever dropping by his place to see how he's doing? I mean, I've seen you guys do that for each other, and hell, you never invite him to these lunches, but you invite me when I'm in the village. Tamari practically growled out. I mean, how could they be so inconsiderate to a teammate and then complain about said teammate and expect him to go along like nothing ever happened? Well, I mean, we started this after we all became genin and I assumed he knew, so it's not really our fault that he never shows up. Ino said, trying to use a lame excuse. She knew that should have invited him, but she hated how he acted so loud and annoying, plus the god-awful orange made it even worse. You guys are really shallow. I mean, come on, he's loyal. He always tries to make everyone happy by putting them before himself. It really doesn't matter, he already figured it out. He's not going to try anymore. If you want him as a friend, he's going to make you all take the first step. Hell, right now he's sparring with Gaara. Tamari finished before putting some money down and standing up. I'll say this once, you all need to take a good look at yourselves. He's already attractive right now since he's changed his outfit, but when he gets older every girl will try and date him. If he's still single by then, well, I wouldn't mind having him as my boyfriend. Tamari said before leaving the restaurant. Did Tamari just say that she wanted Naruto for herself? Sakura asked in shock. She couldn't believe it. Someone just claimed that if no one claimed Naruto as theirs, then she would. She let out a sigh and knew she burned any form of friendship with her blonde teammate. Those long nights while working at the hospital gave her time to think. So forehead, how's the hospital going? Ino asked. She knew even though Tsunade refused to take anyone as an apprentice that it didn't mean that they could learn medical jutsu some other way, and working at the hospital proved to be useful. It's alright, it's a lot of work, and if we want to bring back Sasuke-kun I need to get stronger than I am now. Sakura said while looking at her with determined eyes. Anyo Kiba-kun, maybe you should go and apologize to Naruto-kun for being rude. Every one of them stopped and looked at the shy Hyuga with shock in their eyes. Not once did they ever think the shy Hyuga would say something like this to her teammate. Are you serious, Hinata-chan? I mean, he should apologize to me for being rude. Hell, even Kurenai-sensei reprimanded me. I don't care if he's a chunin or whatever, he needs to learn that he's not better than me. Kiba practically seethed in anger. When his mother heard about his disrespect towards a shinobi of a higher rank, she had punished him by taking Akamaru from him until he learned his lesson. I've heard enough, Tenten yelled out while slamming her hands on the table. She felt like shit for how she treated Naruto behind his back, and now all they were doing was complaining about Naruto behind his back, and she finally had enough. We're practically shunning a teammate and friend for what? She yelled. Naruto-san said that he didn't consider us friends, and as much as he believes that he has to know that we consider him a friend. Shino said while looking at them through his glasses. I admit that I haven't been the best of friends or teammate towards Naruto-san, and he's been here for all of us. Kiba, after he farted in your face, Naruto brought you an Akamaru, a sorry card, and even snuck you both in some stakes. Lee, Naruto and Shikamaru saved your life from Gaara while you were unconscious. Hinata, after your fight with Neji, Naruto brought you a get well soon card and a flower, and Choji, Naruto did the same for you, and he even snuck you in some chips. Shino finished while looking at them. Naruto had gone above and beyond for yet none of them ever did anything nice to him. They never once celebrated his birthday since they were too distracted with the Kyuubi festival. After his sparring match with Gaara, Blonde was walking towards the stone and looked at it. He was looking over it and ran his fingers over the names. How many times did he just sit here and look at the names? He was able to remember every name carved into it, and yet he knew nothing about them. That was until he got the name from Kira about the person who prepaid for the gloves. He knew he remembered that name. Kushina Uzumaki. Naruto said while he ran a thumb over that name. Was this his mother? Or maybe it was someone who let him use her last name. The only thing he did know was that he had to find out who Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze was. Letting out a sigh, Naruto looked up at the sky and closed his eyes. He secretly wanted to know who his parents were, and if Kushina was his mother, then who was his father. It was going to be difficult conversation, but he needed to talk to Tsunade about his parents, and if she didn't tell them, he didn't know what he'd do. This is going to be one extremely uncomfortable conversation, and I still wanna talk to her about joining Anbu. I want to get stronger, and they're considered the elite of the elite. Naruto muttered to himself as he walked away from the memorial stone, sighing for what felt like the millionth time today. Naruto disappeared in a lead shunshin. Arriving outside the Hokage door, Naruto slowly walked in. He looked up and saw Tsunade going through her paperwork. MGHMM. Naruto said as he cleared his throat, making Tsunade look up at him. What do you want, brat? She asked while looking up at him with a raised eyebrow.